Hello, elements. This is a recap for social studies today on September 17th. So let's take a look at what we need to do. You're going to go into the instructional lessons folder as always, and we are still in Unit 1. And we started class just discussing about the expectations. There was a little bit of confusion, so I answered a few questions about making sure you understand that the Achieve article that was called Climbing Kilimanjaro, that is due tomorrow on Friday. So if you have not yet done that, please make sure that you finish it up and do the 5 tabs that were required, and I went over yesterday. The other thing that we started with was the chart that we've been working on the 8 geographic regions, and just making sure that you had finished your additional details column where you looked at what are some additional characteristics and facts that you found interesting about each of those regions. Our work for today, if we go into lesson number 7, and we look at the what we will do today, we weren't able to get through quite everything, so let me be clear on what needs to be accomplished. We went over the directions for basically the assessment that I'm going to give on the geographic regions. We're not going to take a test or a quiz. Instead, we're going to have this activity that forces you to use what you've learned and actually extend it a little bit. So when you open up these directions, it looks a little bit overwhelming, but we took the time to go through it very carefully. The idea is that you are pretending that you have to move out of the coastal plain region. And I am providing you with 6 choices of locations: Phoenix, Arizona, Estes Park, Colorado, etc. You have only those 6 choices that represent the 6 other regions that we learned about to choose for this assignment. I did not include coastal plain because that's where we live, and we're proposing that you have to move out of there. And I didn't choose Appalachian Mountains because you are very well versed in that with the Virginia studies from last year. So I chose 6 of the other regions that are west of the Appalachian Mountains. You will start by completing assignment number 1, which, if we go back in the what we will do today, is a geographic regions graphic organizer. Now, if you go up to the folder, this is where you find that assignment. It's lagging just a little bit today, going slow. Notice it says assignment number 1. So that's the one that we worked on for the remaining time today in class. We did not get to the 1-pager, so don't worry about that for class today. We'll be focusing on that a little bit more tomorrow. So when we open up the Geographic Regions Organizer, I would make sure that you have that direction page that we opened, and then the chart that you're going to be working on. Remember, you had to choose one of 6 choices. Well, this is where you start, just putting the name of the region. So if you chose, for instance, Santa Barbara, California, you'd be writing coastal range, and then I'd also put Santa Barbara, California. Then you just go across the rest of the columns and include facts that you can just bullet or list details that deal with different aspects of living in this area. What would the geography be like? The physical features. So for instance, your bulleted list would include information from what you learned the previous day. Go back to your additional details from your work yesterday in class and that you finished for homework. What else did you find about that coastal range region? What are bodies of water we would see? Interesting land features. What's the vegetation like there? What's the weather like there? So you want to have at least 6 facts or details about the coastal range for number 2. Then in number 3, recreational opportunities. I would come up with at least 3. If you are in Santa Barbara, California, what are some things you could do for fun? Are there museums that you could visit? Are there, outdoor activities that you could do? Are there sports teams that you could go and watch? So these are all things that are potential recreational opportunities that you can list there. Number 4, how would things be a little different living in this region in terms of the food, the housing, or the clothing? Now, these might not be very different, but for instance, with clothing, is the weather different? Would you have to have more warm weather clothes or more cold weather clothes? Food, do they tend to have more seafood there? Or is the agriculture very plentiful? So you have lots of fruits and vegetables that come straight from that region. Housing, that one's a little more tricky, but sometimes we'll notice that styles of housing is different from one area of the country to another. Do they rely more on different types of energy? Lots more solar panels used? Or is there influences of the Southwest, say in the Basin and Range? Rocky Mountains tends to have more, if you're in an area that has skiing, then maybe there'll be chalets and different types of housing opportunities there. So this is just forcing you to think about what would be different. And finally, number 5, what are some different jobs that you could have in that area? If I'm in Santa Barbara, sometimes, unfortunately, there's a potential for earthquakes, maybe a seismologist. Maybe you're in an area where there's lots of agriculture, so you could do farming. Or maybe there's, national parks, a national park ranger. Or, something with the tourism industry. In the Rocky Mountains, whether it's skiing related or whatnot, or rock climbing. So lots of choices, but it shows how it connects the geography with the economy. So that's what you're working on, and should complete that by class tomorrow. That's the major assignment that we worked on today, applying what we've learned and extending it just a little bit more. Okay, so to recap, in terms of homework, just make sure that you finish that Achieve article. Some of you did that already yesterday, but if not, make sure that's done. And then the chart, assignment number 1, make sure that that gets finished for tomorrow. All right, remember, any questions you may have, give me a message in Schoology and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day.